And finally, I'd like to introduce someone who has been a great contributor to NJBIA and the ELCs. Melanie Willoughby spent 19 years with our association throughout her distinguished career and led our lobbying team from 2003 to 2018. Melanie's legacy at NJBIA is one of leadership and dedication while working alongside Frank Robinson. They work very closely together. She's now using her talents and energy as the Executive Director of the New Jersey Business Action Center. Please welcome Melanie Willoughby.
It is really an honor and a privilege for me to be here with so many of Frank's friends and so many of you who he mentored and nurtured you along the way so that you could become the incredible stars you are today. And that's the reason that he's called Uncle Frank, because of the fact that he is an uncle to every single solitary person that he mentored. His family may think that he's the uncle to all of the nieces and nephews and the most wonderful brother in the world to all of you. But he's like that to all of us too. Because I have known Frank, or of Frank, because he is notorious, as we all know, since 1976, when he was a student leader, always a student leader and leader, and I was a student leader, but we were at different colleges together. And we led a caravan of buses of students to the State House to rally against tuition hikes. So you see, Joe, we were even rallying then against tax hikes, right, on students, even though we are pro-business Democrats. And so that was really how I first came to know about Frank. And then our paths crossed many other times because being the political animal that he is, and the political strategist. He was involved, as Joe said, in the Democratic State Committee and on many campaigns. So I had the chance to bump into Frank again when he was running Merlino's campaign for Congress, and I was at the Barbara Sigmund campaign for US Senate. I'm not going to tell you when that was, it was a long time ago, but the fact is that Frank was in charge of street money. And, okay, so I had to go to Frank because I needed street money, for the Barbara Sigmund campaign, and we were going to coordinate, and so we're sitting there negotiating, and you know what kind of negotiator Frank is. And I was still young and naive then, but Frank has taught me a lot. However, he then said, okay, so you have to go to Camden and knock on the door. And this little thing opens, and I go, yes. I said, Frank Robinson sent me for my street money. So that was, wow. He was a star in my mind because of the fact that he trusted me to go to Camden and face those folks for the street money. And I want to thank you. I want to thank you, Frank, for that moment in my life. I came out alive, and so that's why I'm here to talk about you today. And so our relationship just flourished really from there because we worked together closely when he was at the Democratic State Committee, and then when he was also the Executive Director of the Assembly Democrats. I never say minority, Joe. Always, Frank told me, the Assembly Democrats. You never say minority. And that's when he and I sort of like butt heads because I was representing the Retail Merchants Association at the time. And he wasn't so pro-business then, I'm going to tell you, right? Not so much. But Frank is flexible. Frank is someone who, can roll with the times. And there were lots of things that happened, as they do in politics. And he came to work at New Jersey Business and Industry Association. And the association is better off for it. And so is every single solitary, absolutely. Every single solitary ELC director, chair, and all of the people in those ELC committees will tell you he is the most entertaining, storytelling, phenomenal speaker they've ever seen in their entire life. Right? Isn't he? Right? He is. And so that's the reason, I mean, you know, Frank has experienced all those things. Remember, all the stories he tells you, you may think that they're a little stretched. No, they're for real. They're real. Because he has experienced it all, or he's created it. And he always would say, you know, Melanie, he said, you know, if you really want to see how far a rumor will go, remember? He said, spread it and then see if it comes back to you, right? Right, and he would do that, and I'd be like, oh, Frank, that's so smart, you know, when you would want to do that. Well, I was at BIA, and I became the head of government affairs, but don't let that title, no. Frank and I were partners. We were on the same team. He had my back. He's incredibly loyal. He is an incredible man, and I learned so much from him. He always said, you know, Melanie, you're all about policy. And I was like, yes, Frank, and you're all about politics, so what a great combination. And we were the most incredible team. And, you know, I really told Frank after I retired from NJBIA and went off to be at the Business Action Center that the thing I really miss is not having him every day come into my office and tell me what to do. I miss that. And so now I call him to have lunch so he can tell me what to do. And I love it, and I love him for it, and he's the most incredible friend anyone could have. And I know you've all said that coming up here, and I know you all mean it, but, you know, after all those years working with Frank, I mean, he's just the most incredible man I have ever met in my entire life. And I am so fortunate to consider you my friend. But the one thing I beg you, Frank, is that do not write a memoir because of the fact that we'd all have to go into the witness protection program when you talk about all the things that we have done together. So I leave you with that, and I just say that he's the most incredible man I've ever met. So, Frank.